NC State to the Big 12 is not shocking. They are one of the more valuable ACC teams that we left off the board. I think that Louisville is up there. Obviously, Pitt is up there. But right now, it's the legislation in North Carolina, the state government in North Carolina that is pulling strings to try to keep their schools in this pod, from ECU to App State to UNC to NC State. And what it seems like we're driving towards is North Carolina pushed to the SEC or the Big Ten, and NC State left off the table for the Big 12 to pick up. And if the Big 12 doesn't, then they're done. They're in Washington State territory.
Yeah, and this whole development feels like the end of an era almost, because we've heard this with every conference realignment, right?
All from Ross Dellinger, by the way. A lot of this from Ross Dellinger.
Yeah, we heard it from the early days of the Longhorn Network, when it first looked like Texas and OU were going to leave, and it was like, well, OU can't leave without Oklahoma State. And then we heard it with Oregon. Oregon can't leave without Oregon State. It's just not, they're not going to let it happen. And this is the third major one that I can remember, if not more, where it's like, well, UNC can't leave without NC State, so you got to be ready to take on both, except that they can. They can. And it's been laughed out each time, really. And I think that could work in the favor of the Big 12, because, again, we talk about Florida State, Clemson. That's a foregone conclusion. They're out of here. And that the problem for the ACC is that next wave, which is going to be North Carolina, Virginia, probably Duke. Pitt and Louisville, absolutely in that mix. So once those teams start to flee, then I think that's when everyone else is like, okay, we got to find other options. And we talk about the outcasts coming to the Big 12. NC State would fit right into that. I mean, from a competitive standpoint, they are not they feel like a Big 12 school. As a matter of fact, they feel like a West Virginia, a Kansas State, and Oklahoma State. Let's
go. I know we talk a lot about like the college football traditionalists, those who like the Oklahoma State, those who like Bedlam, which you won't get anymore.
And that was one of the other things they were fighting for in this new North Carolina thing. Yeah.
If NC State and North Carolina don't ever play again, I'm not going to care. I think the general public, I know the general public will not care.
That kind of stinks, though. I mean, that does stink.
True. But if Texas and Oklahoma never played again, that'd be a problem. If Texas and Texas A&M never played again, that'd be a problem. See, like, they're back. So I think there are some rivalries that it's just too good. Yes. NC State is not that. Like, North Carolina's biggest rival is Duke, not NC State. So them being, what I'm trying to understand is, I from a Big 12 perspective, from even a Baylor, do you want NC State? Are they appealing enough that you say, yeah, if we can pick up 4 from the ACC, they're on my list?
Appealing enough in a package. Yeah. I mean, if they're 1 or 2, probably not. But if you're going to, wall off a corridor over there in ACC country, which would include Louisville, which is firmly an SEC country, and Pitt, which is just on the edge of Big 12 country. Yeah. I mean, if you get a Pitt, Louisville, NC State, and, name your 4th team package, that's probably not bad. It's really not dissimilar to what you've done in the Pac-12.
You would take Miami off the table there. Do we take Virginia and North Carolina off the table?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, because I think the bigger conferences will be going after those schools. And I'd include Miami in that too. If you're looking at a 4th team of that package that I just named, I mean, you're probably thinking more like a Wake Forest, which is a small time higher.
Which you would, there's no way you go.
It's nothing like really appealing to it.
College, Syracuse.
Syracuse would have been a big brand, but it's too far away. Virginia Tech,
Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech are both on the table.
Those would be much
Wake
more
Forest,
likely, I think. Yeah. So in terms of that, is it sexy? I don't know. I honestly didn't think it was. The teams themselves were that sexy coming from the Pac-12. It was just the fact that you got 4 of them as the conference was imploding. So, I wouldn't mind having NC State there. They've been a pretty good football program the last 5 or 6 years after being bad for a long time. Obviously, basketball had a miracle run this year to the Final Four. I don't expect them to be in that conversation every year. Women's basketball, they're pretty damn good. They've had some decent baseball. although I don't know this year, so I might be talking out of my butt there. So overall, it's like it's a big school. It's a big athletic department that's starting to realize how big it is. They will be as kind of a sneaky player in NIL too, so they could keep something together, at least in the football basketball front.
And maybe we've buried the lead in that this is WRAL who reports a good portion of why the state is doing this. It almost sounds like the verbiage as I read the article that they expect these two schools to play annually and are building that in because they might not be in the same conference moving forward. Like it's the murmur is North Carolina State. We need to write it in stone. They have to play because I don't know if the ACC is going to exist anymore.
And it's something that kind of gets lost in this conference realignment discussions because we're so focused on TV and recruiting markets and things like that. But the reason they did this was to keep UNC and NC State playing each other, plus, App State and East Carolina, because there are more people locally that are invested in those games because they went there. And so they're bigger crowds and it's more money being spent locally and in their economy. And so that's something that does get lost in all this. Like, of course, if you're Oklahoma, you want Oklahoma playing Oklahoma State rather than Oklahoma playing Florida. That does nothing for you. So, yeah, this is definitely a preemptive strike of, hey, we need to make sure we got this in place before the games are no longer against Wake and Duke and Clemson, and they're against, Ohio State and Cal and Penn State, big brands, but not the same kind of draw for the folks of North Carolina. So it was one of those preemptive strikes, and it didn't work. So that, I think, makes just everything easier for those teams, especially Carolina, to up and leave.
That is, at this point, what the goal of Clemson and Florida State obviously is go out. They're done. They're done. No more ACC. For North Carolina,
they don't, and important to note there too. I know it's a little thing, but they don't have ACC schools within their state. Florida State obviously has Miami. That's pretty far away, but that's not the same issue that the North Carolina schools have to deal with, or the Virginia schools even. Yeah.
No Florida lawmaker is vying for Miami and Florida State to stay together. That certainly isn't something that, and Florida do play. And that's going to be a conference matchup very likely moving forward.
And even if them and Miami are in different conferences, they'll play that game too.
Right. And I really don't think that North Carolina is going to sit around after Florida State and Clemson leave and just wait it out and hope for the best. So as it sits,
you don't think they'll be like, it's our conference? Yeah.
Build back better. They're just going to stay put, and they will not stay put. And NC State will have to then jump to a Big 12 if the Big 12 takes it. I think the Big 12 is a leverage situation there, which is good. Coming up, the best party school in the Big 12? This is Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is where I go when the Dallas Mavericks are playing a basketball game, or when the Boston Celtics, Cameron Stewart's own, are playing a basketball game, and I bet on that game. NBA Finals, you can bet on the Mavericks to win the series, the Celtics to win the series, Jason Tatum to score some points, Luka Doncic to score some points. You can even build parlays. And right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets at FanDuel with any winning $5 bet. Summertime means baseball and the NBA Finals and even more. You can bet it all on FanDuel. $200 if you can bet. And $200 is anything. You can use it on parlays. You can use it on the little, just like a straight bet, just a prop. Right now to the Finals MVP. You can bet on that with $200 that you can use if that $5 bet hits. Any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and add a big win to your summer bucket list. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. Go to FanDuel.com/locked on.